Hello, it's Sonia here with the Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today we are going to be doing a crochet project and we're going to be making a hat. So I already have a sample one that I made and I'm going to do a variation of this. This is like the prototype and I like it, but I feel like I want to tweak it a little bit more. So this is just to give you an idea. Now the yarn that I used for this is Red Heart, I think it's Red Heart Super Saver Ombre. I'm not sure of the colorway. And I used a J hook or a 6mm hook to make this one. And for the sample one that I'm going to show you, I'm going to use my I hook or 5.5mm hook. I have a really small head, so this hat, it fits, but it's a little large. So this would be, if you wanted to make a larger size, like more for like a man, or let's say you have like, you blessed with super curly hair, which I am not, then you might want to use the J hook or 6mm hook. But I'm going to be using the I hook just for a little bit of a smaller hat. And the yarn that I'm going to use, I think different colors would go well with this yarn, with this project. So I've got 3 colors. I'm thinking it's going to work. So I have this guy and this guy. We've got some pinks, and I believe this is Paint Box yarn, the Aran yarn, but it's, to me, it's more like a basic number 4 worsted weight. And then I have this multicolored Red Heart Super Saver, and I think the colors are going to go, it's kind of like got purples and pinks and all that in there. And I just have one skein of this, and I kind of wanted to use it for something, so I think it's going to be pretty with the hat. We'll see. And then also for this project, you will need some stitch markers. Now, I actually have an actual stitch marker, like who knew? I never have stitch markers. And then I have some scraps of yarn because I think I'm going to need more than one. So I have no idea where this guy came from. It just kind of appeared on my desk. Like I said, I always lose actual stitch markers, so I usually just use scraps of yarn. So why don't we get started? And this hat is made bottom up. I prefer making my hats bottom up. I just like doing it that way better. Some people prefer top down. I tried making this design top down. I was not enjoying it at all, so it's bottom up. Alright, so why don't we get started? And the directions will be the same if you are using the J hook or the I hook. Okay, and this is for an adult size. So why don't we get started? So we are going to work a foundation single crochet. We're going to work foundation stitches, a single crochet stitches. So to start, I've chained 2, and I'm going to work in the second chain from my hook. If you've never done foundation stitches, today is your day. So I'm inserting my hook in the second chain, and we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, just like we were working a single crochet. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2. So what we've actually made is an extended single crochet stitch. So you can see the little chain there, and please excuse my vitiligo. It really was popping this summer. Summer's over, but I don't really tan, but the sun really did a number on it. Really showed up this summer. So it's slowly fading. All right, so why don't we continue with stitch number 2. So you can see we have a little chain. Let's insert our hook into that chain, pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we have 2 extended single crochet, so you can see the tops of the stitches, 1, 2. So we want to make 64 of these. So I'm just going to keep going here. So I'm going to go off camera and work 64 foundation single crochet, and then I will meet you back. Okay, so here we go. I've worked my 64 foundation single crochet, and one of the reasons why I like foundation single crochet for hats, especially bottom up hats, is it's nice and flexible, nice and stretchy, so perfect for what you want for a hat band. Okay, so let's turn this guy into a circle. So I'm just going to, so I'm acting like I'm turning, so if we were working next row, I'm turning. Then I'm going to run my thumb and index finger just down the length of our foundation stitches, and we are going to join in that first stitch on top of there, and now we have a circle good to go for a hat band. All right, so let's keep going. So we are going to chain 1. This is round 2. So this is technically row 1 / round 1. Now we're on round 2. I've chained 1. I'm just going to half double crochet right in that same stitch. And I'm going to continue to half double crochet all the way around. And I will have a total of 64 half double crochet. And then at the end of this round, I'm going to join with a slip stitch on top of that first half double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 again and work another round of half double crochet for round 3. So I will meet you back at the end of round 3. Okay, so I am finishing up my round 3, and as you can see, I've got 3 loops still on my hook to finish off. So I want to change to my next color. So let me find the end there. And, oops, we're clanking there, sorry about that. Alright, so I'm just going to add my next color. Now you can certainly make this pattern all in one color if you prefer. You don't have to change colors, but I have a lot of yarn I'm trying to use up and a lot of bits of yarn, so I thought this would be a good project to use up some yarn. Alright, so now I'm going to join with my new color. And I'm just going to pull that tail just to kind of tighten that up. And now we're ready to go. So for round 4, we are just going to repeat again. We're just going to chain 1 and half double crochet in that stitch. And we're just going to continue to half double crochet around. And then we will be joining a little bit differently when we get to the end of round 4. So I will meet you back at the end of round 4. Alright, so I finished up round 4, and now we are going to get ready to work round 5. We're going to be working in the 3rd loop. So the unique thing about half double crochet stitch is there are actually 3 loops. So if you're looking at the top, you have your front loop here, you have your back loop like a normal stitch, so back loop. So if you're looking at it like a V, there's the front loop of the V, back loop. But if you turn it like this, you can see another loop back here. That is the 3rd loop. So we're going to be working in that. Okay, so now we're going to join in that 3rd loop now that we've learned about it. So I'm just inserting my hook in that 3rd loop and just joining with a slip stitch there, and then we're going to chain 1 and we're going to half double crochet, and then I'm just going to continue to half double crochet in that 3rd loop all the way around. And then when I get to my last stitch, I am going to be changing into another color. You don't have to, but I want to, so I'm going to go do that. So I will meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so I am at the end of my round 5 here, and now I'm going to join with my next color. As I said before, you can use as many colors or just one color if you prefer. So I'm finishing off that stitch, and I just need to clean that up. She's getting a little loose there. Okay, so now I am going to join again in that 3rd loop with a slip stitch in that 1st stitch. And I'm just going to go back and just clean that up a little bit just by gently tugging on those ends so that all of the stitches look nice and uniform. Okay, so now we are ready for round 6, and I'm not going to cut this yarn. I'm going to carry it up the side so I have less ends to weave in. Okay, so now I'm going to chain 1, and we are going to work a mini bean stitch, which is a fun stitch to work. So I've chained 1. I'm still going to work in my 3rd loop here. So I'm going to insert my hook right back in that same stitch that we joined. I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to yarn over, go right back in, pull up a loop. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through all 4. So I've created that little mini bean. I'm going to chain 1. And we are going to skip our next stitch, and I'm going to work in the next one. So working that mini bean, pulling up a loop, yarning over, going right back in, pull up a loop, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and I'm just going to continue to do this. So what you will have at the end of this round is you should have 32 of these mini bean stitches. So I'm chaining 1 and going right back, skipping that next stitch and going into the next one. So I'm going to do this all the way around until I have 32 mini bean stitches, and I will meet you back. Okay, so I have finished up round 6 here, got my last chain 1. We're skipping that last stitch and we're going to join right on top of that bean stitch there with a slip stitch. And so there we go, round 6 is all completed. So now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to work 2 more rounds of mini bean stitches. So this is round 7, so chaining 1, and so right in the same stitch here, inserting my hook and working that mini bean stitch there, chaining 1. And so see that space right here, you're going to insert your hook right in that space and work your next mini bean stitch. Oops, I think I have too many loops going on there, so here we go, and chaining 1. So I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around for round 7 and for round 8. So I will meet you back at the end of round 8. Okay, so I have worked my last mini bean stitch. I'm going to chain 1 and then I'm going to change to my next color here. So I'm going to, so if you look at the top of the stitches, you can see I'm going to join in that first one, and then I'm going to pick up this like rose pink here, and now we are ready for row 9. So I'm chaining 1 to begin row 9, and we are going to half double crochet in that stitch. So this is repeating row, we're going to be repeating rows 4 and 5 here. So I'm going to half double crochet all the way around, and then I'm going to join in that third loop for row 10, and then I'm going to continue to half double crochet around in the third loop. So I'm just working 1 stitch in each. So at the end of this row you should have 64 stitches, 64 half double crochet. So as I said before, if you're having trouble figuring out where to work, again, just turn your work so you're looking at the tops of the stitches so you can easily see each one. And as I said before, you should have 64 stitches. So I'm going to go off camera. Okay, so I have finished up round 10 and I'm ready for round 11. So I've already picked up this color here for round 11. I joined in the third loop there, just like we've been doing. And so now let's begin round 11. So round 11, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to not work in this first stitch yet. We're going to work in the next one. We're going to work a double crochet. And then we're going to go back in that first stitch and work a double crochet, just crossing over. So it's going to look like an X, like so, and we're going to skip the next stitch and work a double crochet in that third loop in the next. And we're going to go back in the one we skipped. And we're going to do this all the way around for round 11, skipping the next one, working in the next, and go back in the one we skipped. So I'm just going to keep going, working my cross stitches here for round 11, and I will meet you back. Okay, so I've finished up round 11. I've created my last X, and so we are going to join in this first stitch here with a slip stitch. And what I'm going to do is I am going to place a stitch marker here. So this is where we're going to use our stitch markers. I'm going to use just a piece of yarn here. I'm going to pop this in, and it'll make sense as we go along in the pattern, just a helpful tool. So we're going to mark that stitch, And I'm also going to mark this last stitch here. So there we go. Just think of stitch markers as your friends. They can just be little helpful tools to help you be successful with your pattern. All right, so let's begin round 12. We're going to just slip stitch in the next stitch here. So I've got that stitch marked, and now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to work a front post double crochet around this next stitch here. So I've worked that front post double crochet. I'm going to work another front post double crochet, but I'm going to work behind this one I just made. So it's a little bit of hook gymnastics. I'm going to go behind that stitch like that. I'm going to grab this stitch here, and I think I'm picking up an extra loop. Here we go. And you can manipulate the stitches with your fingers to bring that up, and we're just working that front post double crochet stitch like so. So now we have crossed these stitches. So what I'm also going to do is, to make it a little bit easier when we finish up this row, I'm going to mark this stitch here, and we'll use an actual stitch marker for that guy. So I'm going to pop in that stitch marker. So we've got our 3 stitch markers, and that will just help us finish up this round so that we're successful and we know where we need to work. Okay, so let's keep going. So now we are going to skip this next stitch here, and we're going to work front post double crochet around the next stitch. And this will be the repeat for the rest of this round. And now we're going to work behind again. So behind and grabbing that double crochet, working that front post double crochet around that guy. And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around, skipping the next. And working behind that front post double crochet. And I'm hoping with this multicolored yarn that the post stitches will show up okay. It's not always the best using multicolored yarn when you're working post stitches, but I think it's going to be okay. The colors are kind of muted, so we'll see. Okay, so we're going to skip the next, and we're just going to keep doing that. Work front post double crochet, and then go back and work that front post double crochet. So I'm going to keep going around till I get to the end, and then I'll show you why those stitch markers become important for this round. So I will meet you back. Okay, so I am at the end of this round, so we are at our stitch marker situation here that we have. So we still need to complete this round. So the reason why I marked these stitches, so it's going to help you know where to work your last 2 stitches. So I've got my yarn over ready to go. So this one right here that we marked, we are going to work that front post double crochet. So this is where we initially joined. So I'm going to pull that one out. We don't need it right now. And now we need to work around this one that we marked. We're working behind. So I'm just going to pull that out because I know I need to work there. So behind. And we still have one more, and I just marked this guy because this is these first 2 stitches that we worked, and this is where we need to join to complete the round. So I'm gonna pull that guy out, and I'm just going to join, And now we have completed round 11 here. I'm sorry, I said round 11. We have completed round 12. So we're going to do what we did before, marking these stitches. It's just a little helpful tool of where to work. So I'm going to mark this one right here. So I've got my scrap yarn. We're marking that one where we joined. And I'm also going to mark this last stitch here. It just helps you out when you're finishing up the round of where to begin, because we're not, usually when you're starting a round, you're working where you joined and we're actually jumping to the next stitch. So that's why I'm using those stitch markers just to help you out. Now I don't need them because it's my own pattern and I know what I'm doing, but since it's slightly different than the norm, I just thought that using stitch markers, and this one's tangled up, there we go, would be helpful for whoever would try to make this pattern. Okay, so we are going to start, we're going to slip stitch in this next stitch, chain 1. I'm going to work a front post double crochet around the next stitch. And now I'm going to work a front post double crochet around this stitch here, the first one. And we're working in front, so we're just crossing over in front. And we're going to place a stitch marker in this stitch right here. And that is where we will join. Because sometimes with post stitches, especially when you're crossing, we're working like a cable pattern here, it can get a little bit wonky and you're not quite sure where the round begins, where it ends. So just using your stitch markers, as I said, just think of them as your friends. It helps you out where you are in the pattern. Okay, so we're going to skip this next stitch. We're going to work in the next one. Front post double crochet and front post double crochet in the one we skipped. And we're just going to keep doing this around, and we're creating like a lattice effect. That's the plan. So skipping the next one and then going back and working in that next one. And I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around for round 13. So rounds 14 and 15 are going to be a repeat of rounds 12 and 13 that we're currently on. So round 14 you're going to repeat round 12, and round 15 you're going to repeat round 13, and then I will meet you back at the end of round 15. Okay, so I worked up to row 15. So I think it looks nice with this multicolored yarn. It's supposed to be like a lattice type woven effect there. And I think it's showing up okay. So as you can see, I've switched back to like this rose pink color. We're going to work round 16. So I'm just joining with a slip stitch in that first stitch. And what we're going to do is we are going to be repeating rows 4 through 8. So these rows here and these rows here with the mini bean stitch, we're going to be repeating those again. So you're going to work 2 rows of the half double crochet, and of course the one row will be using the third loop, and then the 3 rows of the mini bean stitch. So I'm going to go do that off camera. So I'm going to work my half double crochet rows and then my mini bean stitch rows, and then I will meet you back. Okay, so I have worked up to row 20. So I've got my 3 mini bean rounds here. I keep calling them rows, I'm sorry, they're rounds. So now we're going to start to work on finishing up this hat. We have a couple more rounds to go, and obviously we got to get rid of this big giant hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and this is just going to be a half double crochet round. We're going to work even all the way around, So just working half double crochet, and then this is round 21. So for round 22 we will be starting some decreasing to close up this big hole. So I'm going to keep going here. Okay, so I worked my round of half double crochet and I joined in the third loop because we are going to be working in the third loop still, and we're going to start decreasing for round 22. So I'm going to chain one, I'm going to half double crochet in that same stitch, and I'm going to half double crochet in the next 5 stitches for a total of 6. Okay, so I've worked my 6 half double crochet. Now we're going to work a decrease or together stitch. So I've yarned over, I'm going to work in the third loop, pull up a loop. I'm working in the third loop in the next stitch, pulling up a loop. I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through the remaining 3 loops. And now we've worked a together stitch or decrease stitch. I learned them as decrease. Okay, so now we are going to half double crochet in the next 6 stitches. Okay, so I've worked 6 stitches. Sorry, my battery died. So I worked 6 half double crochet stitches. So now we're going to work a decrease stitch. So just picking up a loop, and the loop still working in the third loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the remaining 3. So you're going to repeat that around. You're going to work half double crochet in the third loop in 6 stitches, and then you're going to work your decrease all the way around. So I will meet you back at the end of round 22. Okay, so I worked my last decrease stitch there, and at the end of round 22 you're going to have a total of 56 stitches. And as you can see, I changed to my original color here, and I'm going to join in that third loop with a slip stitch to complete round 22. So now we're going to chain 1, and we're just going to single crochet around, working even 56 stitches, working in that third loop. So I'm just working my single crochet in that third loop all the way around. Okay, so I'm finishing up round 23 here. I'm going to work my last single crochet, and I am going to put a stitch marker in that last stitch because we're going to work in continuous rounds. I'm not going to be changing colors, so I'm trying to make it look as seamless as possible. I mean, there is a little bit of a seam, and as you can see, but it's not too terrible. But anyway, let's keep going here. So now we are going to decrease again, and we are going to single crochet in the first 5 stitches here. So marking that last stitch just helps you know where the last one is, because when you're working around and around and around, it can kind of be hard to figure out which is your last stitch, which is your first stitch. So it just helps you out there. As I said before, stitch markers are your friends. Alright, so we've worked 2 single crochet. Now we are working, we want to work 5 before we decrease here. I have 4, 5. So I want this to look as seamless as possible even with the decreases. So how I like to do it, it's a little bit different than a traditional single crochet decrease. So I'm going to insert my hook in the front loop of the next stitch and insert my hook in the front loop of the one after that. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, and then I'm going to yarn over, pull through the remaining 2. And it just kind of gives it a cleaner look there than a typical single crochet decrease or together stitch. So let's do that again. We'll work 5 single crochet. So I've got my 5 single crochet, and now I'm going to insert my hook in the front loop of the next stitch, insert my hook in the front loop of the next. I've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're just going to keep going all the way around. So you work 5 single crochet and then do your decrease all the way around. And then your next round, this is round 24. So then your next round 25, we're just going to single crochet all the way around. And at the end of this round, you're going to have a total of 48 stitches. Okay, so I finished up round 25. I just worked even. We have 48 stitches. So let's do some more decreasing. Okay, so we are going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So I have 4 stitches there, and now we're going to decrease again, just what we did before. The front loop, and then finish off that stitch. So I'm going to keep doing this around for round 26. I'm going to work in single crochet in 4 stitches and then work a decrease. And then for round 27, I'm going to be working even again. I'm just going to single crochet around, and I'm still using my stitch marker there to help me to mark my stitch. So at the end of this round, we will have 40 stitches. Okay, so let's get ready for round 28, and we're going to decrease again. So we are going to work 3 single crochet, and at the end of round 27 you'll have 40 stitches. So we're working 3 single crochet, and we're going to do another decrease. So we've got to get this hole smaller. It's getting there. So you can see there. And we're going to work 3 again and work a decrease. And I always kind of like to do my decreases gradually because I don't really want the hat to be like a cone head, a pointed cone, so I kind of want it that nice gradual, like rounded. I mean, if that's the look you're going for, then you know that's absolutely fine, but that's not the look I'm going for with this hat, so that's why we're doing it like this. Okay, so I've worked 3 and I'm going to do another decrease. So I'm going to keep going around, working 3 single crochet and then working a decrease, and at the end of this round we will have 32 stitches. So we're getting there. All right, I will meet you back. All right, so let's do round 29. So we're not going to work even because I don't want the hat to be too tall here. I want it slouchy, but not too crazy slouchy. Okay, so let's do some more decreasing for round 29. So we are going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and we're going to decrease again. And we're going to do that again, single crochet the next 2, so that's the repeat here. So you're going to single crochet in 2 and then decrease. So at the end of round 29, we are going to have a total of 24 stitches. And I think we'll do one more decrease round after this, and then we'll get ready to finish up this hat, which I'm actually really liking. I think these colors are pretty cute together. I'm really actually liking it quite a bit. I wasn't sure when I picked them out, so I'm trying to, you know, work through stash here, and so I was looking in my bin of stash yarn and trying to see, you know, what kind of goes together and if it would look cute, and I very pleasantly surprised. So I'm going to keep going here and then I will meet you back. Okay, so I have finished up round 29. So let's work round 30. This will be our final decrease round, and then we will finish up this hat. So we are going to, we have 24 stitches. We're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and I've been using my stitch marker the whole time. As you can see, it gives like a nice seamless look there. Now if you were using a bunch of colors, then it would look staggered, but we're just using this one color, so it works out fine. Alright, so I've single crocheted and we're going to work a decrease stitch and single crochet in the next one and work a decrease stitch. So you're going to do that all the way around, and you will have 16 stitches at the end of round 30 here. So I'm going to keep doing that and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I have finished round 30. I've got my 16 stitches. So as you can see, we still have a hole. We need to close that guy up. So what you could do is you could just cut a long tail and sew that closed. But I'm going to show you my technique that I came up with, and I'm not trying to say I invented this or reinventing the wheel, but I haven't really seen it anywhere else, and it's just something that I like to do. Some people hate it, some people like it, some people are indifferent to it, so you do whatever you like to close up your hole, but we're going to do this technique. So you're going to need your hook, and you'll need 1 or 2 other hooks, either the same size or smaller. These are both, I think, 4.25mm hooks. So generally I say use a straight hook for this technique, but you can see I have one like this. So if you have a bunch of these kind of hooks, you could still do this technique. So I will show you. You might need just 1 other hook or 2 other hooks depending on how it's going for you. I can probably just do it with 2 since I do this all the time, but you know, if it's really getting hard for you, you can use 3. Okay, so let's do this. So we've got our loop on our hook. You're going to want that fairly snug on your hook. You know, you don't want it like loose. I mean, you don't want it so snug that you can't, you know, move it up and down, but you do want it on there nice, fairly tight. Okay, so we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop. We're not going to work it off, and we're going to go into the next stitch, pull up a loop. And you're going to pull up as many loops as you can. Comfortably get on this hook. And maybe 1 more. Okay, so I've got a bunch of loops. So I'm going to get this hook and my second hook here, and I'm just going to use 2. So if it's really hard, like I said, you could use 3, you could use 4, you know, whatever you want. And I just suggest using either the same size that's on here or size smaller. I would not size up. Okay, so I'm going to insert my hook in, my second hook in the next stitch there. My working yarn, so you want your last loop to be fairly snug on that hook, and we're going to pull through like so, just going in. So I have 2 more loops right here. Let's see if we can make her work. Yep. So like I said, if this is getting really tight and hard, you could use a 3rd hook as well, and just, so it almost looks like, I kind of borrowed this technique from knitting, so it almost looks like double pointed needles. So if any of you are knitters, you'll understand what I mean. If you're not a knitter, but you've seen the pictures where there's a whole bunch of needles around, it's kind of a similar technique to that. So now we have to work these loops off these hooks. So we have our working yarn, and you just want to do this carefully. I'm going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through all of these loops. So think of it as like almost like a giant slip stitch. So I'm yarning over, pulling through, and you can just go through carefully. Maybe do 2 at a time, 1 at a time, whatever is comfortable for you. I wouldn't just kind of burn right through it, because if you miss a loop, then you actually have to start over, and that's really annoying. Okay, so we pulled off all the loops on this hook. So now I need to put this loop on to the second crochet hook. So I'm just going to carefully pop that guy on, set that guy aside. So I'm just going to give that a little tug, because that loop's a little too loosey-goosey there. Like I said, you kind of want the loops to be fairly snug on the needle, or on the hook. We're not using, I'm talking about knitting and I'm calling needles. I do knit too, but no, these are crochet hooks. And we're just going to continue to pull through all the way around. And what this does, it just gives this a nice, neat, closed finish. So there we go. I've got all of my loops pulled through. So now we need to cut the yarn. And As you can see, that looks pretty nice. So then what I like to do to just, because sometimes you get a little bit of like slight bubbling there, so what I do to fix that is I take my hook, put it inside the hat, poke it through the center of that hole. I grab the tail with my hook, so you can see I'm grabbing that. I'm pulling it through that hole. Then I go back inside the hat, grab the tail with my hand, and I just give it a nice good tug, pulling that fairly tight. And that usually takes care of that little weird bubble. So as you can see, that is a very nice, clean finish. Is what you want. But if you really hate this method, like I said, you can feel free to sew it shut, and you could just slap a pom-pom on there and nobody would see it. Which I might put a pom-pom on this hat, I'm not sure. I gotta look through my pom-poms and see if I have one that will match these colors and look cute. But maybe we'll see. I'm not sure if we're gonna do pom-pom or not. But then what you need to do to finish this guy up is weave in all of your loose ends and block your hat if you need to. And then you're all set to go. So as you can see inside, I tried to avoid as many ends as possible by carrying the yarn up the side. So some people might not like this. Like if you were going to sell this hat, I wouldn't recommend doing this. I would recommend cutting the yarn and weaving it through just because it's a cleaner finish inside. But I don't plan on doing that. I'm probably going to donate this hat, and no one's really going to care. I mean, most people that aren't knitters or crocheters, they're not like, oh my gosh, look at that, you know. They just want a cute hat to wear, and you know, it doesn't matter. But yes, I'm going to go weave in my ends, and then I might block this hat gently, and then it will be all set. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.